My name is Maria Vassilakou. I'm a member of the mission board, but I have also served as Vienna's vice mayor for 10 years, between 2010 and 2019. So what I will be talking about will be the mission, but more so from the perspective of cities and city administration. And I warn you, many of the examples that I will be bringing are from Vienna. Well, because it's my city. But it won't be just Vienna. Now, without further ado, the message is, yes, we have all embarked on a mission, and this mission is possible. It can be done. But it is a matter of strategy, strategic planning. It's a matter of management, and it's a matter of collaboration. And because I'm of Greek origin, and we Greeks tend to quote other Greeks, especially other Greeks from the antique, I would like to start with a quote from Pericles, the famous Athenian mayor in the 5th century before Christ's birth, who actually explained why cities are so attractive, why they're growing. Because even back then, cities were growing. So he said the city is grand because its philosophy is not war and conquest. So its philosophy is peace. The city is grand because it lets the world flow through it. So it's about diversity. And the city is grand because it gives everyone opportunities to make the most of themselves. So it's about, well, economic development. I think that when we think about the mission, we should be keeping these three elements in the back of our minds, because in the end, they are very relevant. Now, we all live in the metropolitan century. Cities already account for far beyond 50% of the world's population, expected to peak by 2080, and what we all deal with beyond all other aspects is urban growth. Urban growth at a high pace, and urban growth that poses one question to us. Do we want to manage it and use opportunities, or is it going to be mismanaged or unmanaged urban growth, which means not only missing opportunities, but getting into big trouble? I have chosen to very briefly touch upon 8 major game changers. There are more than these, but I think that these 8 game changes that I will be talking about have also a lot to do with the mission. First and foremost, growth and demographics, which mean that our cities are getting younger and older at the same time. The housing crisis everywhere. And it's not only a matter of affordability, it's a matter of availability and accessibility. So in many parts of Europe, we have building developments all around the year and everywhere, but they're not only affordable, they're useless. Not affordable, they're useless. We have the climate crisis. Here's an image from Stuttgart a couple of years ago. We have mass migration. And another form, decarbonization at urban scale. This is an image from Athens, by the way. It could be Italy, it could be Spain. 80% are owner-occupied flats. Imagine what this means. Small flats occupied by the owners having to decarbonize. Social and cultural change, which, by the way, has led to a renaissance of public space. So that's an opportunity for sure. Global tourism, and democracy change, which is a challenge and a chance, because now we know one thing: citizens expect to be involved and they expect to have a say. And here are just 4 typologies, very briefly, so that we can actually picture what we're talking about, right? Now, we are obviously top right, but in one or the other way, we may be having similar typologies within our cities at the same time. And this is just to understand there is no one size fits all. Now, cities and regions, as opposed to businesses, are dealing with some wicked problems. I would say, let's just take, for the sake of now and of being brief, limited access to capital, low investment rate. Also, the fragmentation of responsibilities and decision-making powers. And the Mission Platform, the Net Zero Cities Platform, did a survey a couple of years ago, arriving at this result. So, fragmentation of responsibilities, access to funding, financing schemes, insufficient administrative and/or operational capacity. 3 major challenges. And last week, I was in Mendoza speaking at a conference of the Inter-American Development Bank. And that was the cloud produced by all participants who were cities, Latin American cities. What do you find here? I mean, you're Romanian, so you all understand. I mean, it's awesome. It's across the globe, exactly the same thing. It's about fragmentation, it's about access to funding and financing, it's about capacity, technical capacity, the capacity to bring projects to maturity so that they can become bankable. I'll stop. I think you all know that it is what it is, which is why I would like to remind us, before we start lamenting about all these things, why are we here? Why are we here? Well, for one thing, we're here because of the co-benefits of the mission. We want life, a good life for everybody, to be affordable. We're here because we want livable cities, and we're here because we want strong communities. By the way, strong communities, strong active communities are a co-benefit of the mission. We're here because we want to use local transformation processes in order to arrive at thriving local economies. And this is, by the way, a street in Vienna, the central shopping street, the way it was before and the way it is today. And, as we say in German, do we want to continue baking small breads? No. We want to bake big breads. We want big, big transformation. So how do we get there? I will be very briefly sharing a couple of lessons from across Europe. And I would like to warn you about one thing. It will not be about access to funding, and it will not be about access to financing. So it won't be about borrowing money from development and investment banks, and it will not be about public hand funds. Why? Because there are so many other things that we can do, and I think that we should be focusing on these as well. And because we will be talking about it today, later, and tomorrow, and because we talk about it all the time, I would like us to get inspiration from what else can be done, actually, by everybody, now and relatively easily. So let's start with number 1, which is why we're here. Think big, think missions. Okay, we all know, we've all heard it. This is why, this is what we're practicing, the mission for 100 climate neutral cities by 2030, 2035 in our case. And we're not alone. We know that there are so many cities across Europe who have embarked on this journey. Meanwhile, and I would like to remind us of the pillars of the mission, and especially the first 2, a new model of city governance, and most notably, a new role for the citizens. This one does not happen all by itself. It needs to be organized. Which takes me to number 2, unlock synergies. Here's an example of how to unlock synergies. Why, when building new urban quarters, build them today the way we would have built them 20 or 30 years ago. I'm here at the Faculty of Architecture, I suppose urban planning as well. So what speaks against planning new urban quarters in a way that there is vast green spaces in the middle and we abandon the grid of having car streets cutting in between and across, and possibly do it also with high environmental and energetical standards straight from the beginning, so that connected to the already existing green spaces of the city, we can actually create what I would call an archipel, call it a network of green and open spaces, and an opportunity for additional greening. 2, use maintenance as an opportunity for transformation. Why, for God's sake, do we maintain streets in our cities and then build them exactly the same way that they were before? So imagine maintaining the street in front of this university here, taking out the cars to do maintenance, and then bringing them back on the sidewalk again, instead of trees. So here's an opportunity and a synergy to use. Whenever there is a street maintenance project, use it as an opportunity for transformation. 3rd, creating and using momentum. This is an image from Paris. We all know what they managed to do out of the Olympic Games. I think that every city of ours has momentum at certain moments and has an opportunity to use it for large-scale transformation. Taking me to 3, create and manage ecosystems. Now I start with the example of the small Belgian city of Leuven, who might be, by the way, an excellent idea to invite at some point in the future, their mission manager, who started with 60 signatories who worked together on the development of the city's climate action plan, and who have grown to beyond 600 meanwhile, through continuous active onboarding of stakeholders, citizens, local companies, businesses, whatever you can imagine, in order to grow. And the message here is an ecosystem is not just a matter of management, it's a matter of growing it constantly. But now let's move to Vienna and look at the existing ecosystem there of approximately 50 active non-profit, so limited profit housing corporations. I think that in most of our countries, we have one or the other kind of cooperatives, housing cooperatives, limited profit housing corporations. But it is not about only creating new, affordable, high-quality housing. It's more so about energy upgrade of the existing housing stock. Now in Vienna, because of this, already 40% of the existing housing stock has been retrofitted. And the way it works is by providing, forget about this slide, the basic message here is by providing subsidies as long-term, low-interest mortgages to people. And cooperating with limited profits, you can imagine that because of energy bill savings, most of it can be easily paid back. But the message here is collaborate, possibly with non-profit providers, to get the job easier done. 4, use legal tools. So this is an example of an urban contract practiced very commonly in cities in the German-speaking area, that actually says that as soon as a developer receives a permit that would mean that they can do upzoning. I don't know how to go back, so I will just stop pressing. So as soon as a developer receives, as said, a permit to do upzoning, they will have to agree to certain things, qualities. They will have to agree to possibly introducing, using solar power, planting trees, financing, by the way, amenities for the community. All of this is put together in a contract, and that means that it is not the developer who has the profit and the public hand that has all costs. The burden, and if you wish, whatever needs to be invested for the common good can be shared, and that saves lots of money. Now, 5 was spark cross-tier collaboration. Thank you. This is actually what you're already doing, where Romania is the champion right now in terms of creating the mission, the Mirror Mission platform, and organizing, inspiring cities, organizing collaboration also between cities, regions, and the national level. I would like to bring as an example what is happening in Athens, Greece, where they started with a challenge to match investors with mission cities systematically. And not only to match them, but, and that takes me to the next, to test. Because I think it's also all about innovative procurement and looking into ways to function as a test bed, as a city, together with companies to test new products until the city identifies the solution, the product that is optimal, avoiding lock-in effects on the one hand, and on the other hand, of course, procuring in a way that is more favorable for the city budget. By the way, top left, you can see also a new urban quarter in Vienna testing autonomous buses as an example of the way this can be done to be then expanded in the entire city. Which takes me to number 7. I think now we're getting serious because it's about mobilizing private investment, and by this I mean individual investment, citizens' investment. Here's an example of one of 30, actually more than 30 meanwhile, citizen solar power plants in Vienna, where anybody can own a share for as little as 50 euros and up to 10,000 euros, so nobody can buy it up. The city is organizing it in collaboration with an electricity company, and meanwhile, we have more than 30 of them. By the way, the first one sold out within 2 hours, so the platform actually collapsed. None of these takes longer than 2 days to sell out every time we start the process for a new one. And identify and involve local allies. The street that you see here used to look like this, looks like this today, and 50% of the costs has been paid by local real estate owners. So looking into potential for collaboration with so-called outcome buyers, the ones who will be benefiting from change, is also a way to go about this. Taking me to involving local businesses. Sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with grants or subsidies. Both cases that you see here, let's start with bottom right. Here we had the shops, the shop owners and the restaurants and cafes who started doing vertical greening and putting pot plants on the sidewalks. But the sidewalks were very narrow, so there was a complaint and they would have to take them away. So what the city did was to actually turn this street into shared space. So there were no sidewalks. And then the local shop owners actually took up the responsibility for greening. An excellent example of local collaborations for transformation. Top right is actually something where the city did not spend €1 on it. It's just giving the permission to do that. And look at what emerged out of it. The entire Danube Canal is what it is today just because the city provided permissions to use the quays, to put the cafes, restaurants, etc. So sometimes it's just about giving permissions. Taking me to 9, support community action. What about a small grant that is given to local communities, to anybody who has an idea of how to create a small park, a small green space on the space of 2 parking cars, plus a prototype contract to be able to be allowed to use public space. This is what it is in Vienna, and by the way, the only precondition is that it has to be open for everybody to use without having, of course, to consume anything or to pay entrance fees for being there. It's on a dime, and meanwhile, it exists for approximately 10 years now, and meanwhile, well beyond 1,000 such projects have been actually implemented throughout the entire city. Embark in public plural partnerships, because it's not just about public-private partnerships, it's about public plural partnerships where you have the public hand. You may be having, example given, a company or a local entrepreneur, and then, of course, people, local communities. But these need a framework, right? They need a framework. They need somebody to take care and manage this, which takes me to the last one. And that is focus on the local level. Focus on the neighborhood level and look into how to combine different measures and approaches in one and the same neighborhood, understanding that, first of all, every neighborhood needs a heart beating. So a place where community can come together, and every neighborhood is worth it to be transformed, to have a beautiful public space where one can meet together and exchange and, in a way, work together at the mission. But in order to do that, there is a governance framework that is necessary. So collaboration is a superpower, but it just doesn't happen. Organizing collaborative processes means looking at it at the local level, example given, possibly appointing teams of architects and planners, as this is done very often in German-speaking cities, to actually steer collaborative processes at the local level. This image shows you what Vienna used to look like in the 70s, what it looks like today, and the entire refurbishment process of the historical parts of the city have been managed by the so-called urban renewal teams, which are teams, non-profit teams of architects and planners that have actually each team steered refurbishment processes in one area of the city. Now, this is how they work today. They are the mediators between the city and local communities. So if the city wants to do something, they will go to them, they will put it under discussion and steer local involvement processes. But if a citizen has an idea also, they will go to them, they will organize local discussion processes and mediate contact to the city so that it can be implemented. This said, little things matter. These are tiny local projects, turning neighborhoods into places for life, and of course, big things matter too. And the last example that I have brought is from Groningen, where they took the approach of implementing the Climate City contract by subdividing the city in 130 neighborhoods and introducing an energy management for every neighborhood, according, of course, to an integrated plan for the entirety of the city. But by working at it neighborhood by neighborhood, it means that once they're done with 130 neighborhoods, they will be climate neutral. So this set takeaways and insights. The first is long-term vision and plans require leadership. Leadership means not top-down. It means that every one of us is a leader at the moment when we decide I'm doing something, I'm becoming active. And they take collaboration, but collaboration needs to grow. Collaboration needs trust. Trust is a garden. And a garden needs what? It needs space, it needs a gardener, and it needs time. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about giving collaboration, stakeholder involvement, citizen engagement, places where it can happen, allocating resources, thinking about standards and rules, allocating people who will take care of it so that it can happen. If I were to give one advice, to share one piece of advice, that would be start with it now, because this is something that will grow. So, synergies are money, in a way. So, start by thinking, where are street maintenance projects that we have in the next 3 years, and how can we combine these to do greening, example given at the same time. And this is just one example for synergies. Connections. Think big, according to a long-term, big plan, act here. Choose starting points strategically, connect the dots. And this said, I wish you all of success, and let's get started. Thank you.